Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast, where we talk about everything dog. Q&As with veterinarian professionals, rescue operators, everyday topics. We cover everything dog on this podcast. So make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media on both Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for listening. Now here's that next episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast. This is your host, Brittany, and this is season 6. So if you've been on this journey with us for a while, thank you so much for following, liking, subscribing. And if you're new here, welcome. So this is the perfect episode to join us on. This episode is all about who we are, why we have the podcast, why we do what we do, and what to expect for this season. So like I said, my name is Brittany. I am the host of the Canine Culture Podcast. I am a dog lover. I volunteer. I volunteer at some local shelters, work with some local rescues. I sit on the board of a local nonprofit that helps one of our shelters here in Florida. And my day job is actually as an analyst. So my background there is I'm an attorney. And I went into legal practice, kind of pivoted from legal practice earlier this year, went more into the financial sector, regulatory sector. And so that's my day job. Now, dogs are my passion. Anyone that knows me knows that that's true. So I have 4 Pomeranians. I have Stoney, who is 15. She's a rescue. We've got Titan. He's 14, had him since he was a baby. We've got Napoleon. He's going to be 5 soon. He's a rescue. And then Odin, who's going to be 2 soon. He's also a rescue. So the other person that is integral to this podcast is Nick Snell. He is my husband. He is our executive producer. So he, along with the Pom Squad, help produce every episode, make sure that we got everything up and running on every platform, make sure that everything sounds good. And so that's pretty much the entire team. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the dogs and kind of their stories, because a lot of people enjoy hearing their stories. They're all a little bit unique. But first, I'm going to talk about the podcast itself. So this is a podcast on any topic that is related to dogs, all thing dog. So think about, vets, rescue operators, dog product manufacturers or owners, just anyone that is knowledgeable in the dog space, anyone that could bring value to any of our listeners. And so really the reason we started this podcast was to provide free information to dog owners and dog lovers, because it is complicated to get that information. Maybe you don't always want to run to the vet, or you don't have access to your vet, or perhaps it's not a question for the vet. And I say it all the time, you don't know what you don't know. And so my goal is that if I can help one dog owner or, positively impact one particular dog, then I've done my job. So back in 2016, we had a senior Pomeranian. Her name was Chloe. And for a few months, she started to eat a little bit less, was a little bit less active, started to get a little bit lethargic. We kept doing blood work. Finally, we did some imaging after advocating on her behalf and found out that she had cancer. So the day we found out that she had cancer, our vet essentially said, "She's sick, don't come back, good luck." That led me on a path of making phone calls, Googling everything possible, doing as much research as possible, just quite frankly trying to understand, okay, cancer in dogs, what do you do about it? How can you treat it? What modalities are available? And so, knowing that I went through that experience, that we went through that experience, really prompted me to want to help other dog owners, because I know I'm not alone in that quest for helping a dog. So during that time, so from 2016 to 2017, I learned a lot. So we saw an oncologist where Chloe received radiation therapy as well as chemo, and we tried multiple forms of chemo. While doing that, I also started to learn a lot about Eastern medicine and integrative medicine. And so with that, started to learn about different herbs, so different Chinese herbs, generally just different types of herbs and different types of mushrooms and some different plant products. Also learned a lot about acupuncture for dogs, as well as the ketogenic diet for helping dogs with cancer, and a number of other things. So once all of that was said and done, with our research, given the time that we found the cancer, we gained about 7 or 8 months more with Chloe, and that was it. It quite frankly was pretty late in the game when we finally caught the cancer. So after all of that happened, I knew I wanted to bring to a platform just free information as much as possible, not cancer specific, but just anything, and not necessarily even for different issues or health concerns, but maybe just things that might improve a dog's life, or things that could be fun, things that could be enjoyable, both for the owner and for the pet. And that's how the Canine Culture Podcast was born. So over the last 5 seasons, we've had a number of vets come on here, whether they talk about particular conditions, ER visits, preventative medicine, things like that. We've also had some integrative approaches, some kind of thinking outside the box here. We've had doggy physical therapists. We've had trainers. We've had dog food manufacturers, which has been very enlightening, very eye-opening, and very educational. We have had different people they're small businesses that make dog products, whether the dog products are to make your life easier, to benefit your pet, or just something that's fun. We've also had rescue operators. So if you're a rescue listening to this, I love to spread your message because you guys are doing amazing work. And the more we can get your name out there and get the dogs out there, the more dogs we can get adopted or even fostered. So this podcast is truly meant to cover any and every topic related to dogs. So in this season, for season 6, we will be talking to more vets. And of course, if you guys ever have questions, want us to cover something, or want to be a guest, please feel free to reach out. You can always email us. You can always send us a DM on social media. We're going to talk to more rescues this season, learning about some more rescues, what they're doing, what their needs are. And then we're also going to talk to different businesses in the pet sector. So got quite a bit planned for this season. I'm excited about it. I hope that you guys can learn something from it. And like I said, if there's something that maybe you've been wondering for a while, a topic that's recurring, please feel free to reach out. So told you about myself already. I told you a little bit about, the podcast, the why. And so we always get questions about our 4 dogs. So I'm going to work our way through ages. It's just the easiest. I'm going to start with Stoney. So Stoney is 15. She's a Pomeranian. We rescued her when she was 11 years old. She was busted out of a breeding case. As you can imagine, it was very poor conditions, and I won't go into any of those specifics, but she was not used to being held or pet. She was not used to being outside. At the age of 11, she was certainly not potty trained. And, it's been really great to see her grow over the past few years. So we rescued her. Papillon Pals here in Jacksonville, Florida, actually busted her out of the shelter. They had a couple of senior Pomeranians, and I applied, told the director of Papillon Pals how interested we were, and then she made it happen. So it's been exciting to watch Stoney. We have been to the vet so many times, and Stoney doesn't care. She doesn't care about anything. She loves to eat. She loves to sleep, and that's about it. So for Stoney, a couple of things we kind of do at her advanced age, and given the fact that she lived most of her life in a cage. So once a month, she goes to acupuncture, and she also gets laser. It has been phenomenal for some disc injuries that she has and her arthritis and her overall mobility. So if you were to see an x-ray of her back, every vet that sees it, how does this dog walk? Can this dog even walk? Absolutely. Not only can she walk, she can run, she can jump. She's loving life. So at the age of 15, some other things that we have done for her, she has a number of supplements. So she's got a mushroom blend, really heavy on the lion's mane. Lion's mane is great for cognitive effects. So if you guys stick around or check out some old episodes, I've talked about it before. She takes CBD. CBD has been great for overall anxiety, helping inflammation, all of that. Of course, a salmon oil. She does a joint supplement. And as far as food, we actually make her food for her. So she's pretty low carbohydrate. So my understanding and reading, and everyone, of course, can have a different opinion on this, is that dogs at an advanced age will benefit from a lower carbohydrate diet. So cognitively, it does help them with respect to their overall just cognitive ability. Some other things that we have done around our house to accommodate having a 15-year-old Pomeranian. We have got stairs to the bed and to the couch. There's different rugs kind of placed throughout so she doesn't slide on any of the tile floors. And just a number of other regimens that I'd love to talk about if you guys are interested. The next dog on the roster is Titan. So we got Titan as a puppy. Just two broke college kids. We did not intend to get a puppy, walked into a pet store, and there he was. And I don't support buying dogs at pet stores. And again, another topic for another day. I honestly don't. And, hey, at the age of 18, 19, however old I was, I wasn't informed. I had no idea where pet stores got their dogs from. I don't even think I knew what a puppy mill was. And so not once did that cross my mind. So that's certainly been a huge lesson that I've learned over the years. And I really want to educate people on puppy mills. But nevertheless, we saw this dog. We are broke college kids, both working, my husband and I both working 3 to 4 jobs. I'm not even sure we could afford ramen, so we would just split like a bag of chips like over the course of a week as dinner. And any of my friends at Ohio State will tell you if they had food swipes or meal swipes, I would take them. So I would have them give me their meals so that I would have something to eat. But we see this designer Pomeranian, a blue Pomeranian. And I won't tell you the price tag because it's alarming. It was probably triple what our rent was. So that was the first loan my husband and I ever got together. So we had only been dating a little over a year, I think. And we had to get a loan for this dog. So it all worked out in the end. Titan is doing great. Titan has now lived in multiple cities. So he lived in Columbus, Ohio, Jacksonville, Florida, up to New York City, back to Jacksonville, Florida. He's a city dog through and through. So I know so many people have met Titan over the course of his life, and New York City is where he thrived. So he just loved going to work every day. So he came into an office, he had a bed, he had a toy box there. He came to the CrossFit gym every day. He would do box jumps on the boxes. He would run with people while they were lunging. And he's pretty well traveled. So he used to fly everywhere. So he has flown all over the United States. He needs one of those maps where he could put pins in different cities. But that's Titan. And he's 14. So in the past year, he's completely lost his hearing. So he is now completely deaf. And he's starting to lose his vision. But he still plays. He gets out his toys. He's still rambunctious. And his diet's a little bit different as well. So he's actually on a ketogenic kibble. Similar supplements to Stoney. And he goes once a month for laser. And then he doesn't get true acupuncture because he hates needles. He is a big baby. He does like a laser acupuncture, so to speak. And I wish I could explain that to you guys better, but that's all I got for that. But that is Titan in a nutshell. And then next up is Napoleon. Napoleon has been a very complicated dog. And I think you're going to see a theme moving forward. So as we've progressed and as I have learned more about dogs, I have taken on some of the harder cases. Napoleon, I saw on Facebook from a rescue in New Orleans, and I won't say the name of it. He was on there for months and months and months. And his write-up was not good. He had an extensive bite record. He had been returned a few times. Overall, the write-up was terrible. And so I reached out and said, I'm happy to come get this dog. I'm positive that I can work with him and I can help him. The rescue didn't get back to me. And I know that some of you guys feel that same frustration. You're like, the rescue did not get back to me. Now, there's a difference when a rescue doesn't get back to you and a dog gets adopted. Maybe they had 100 applicants. They just didn't get to you, or there was someone that was better suited. That's one thing. And so I will say, if you're trying to rescue, be patient, give them time. However, in my case, I had applied and he was still being posted online. to the point where the rescue was saying, we are desperate. He's going to be euthanized. Someone come get him. And I just couldn't figure out for the life of me, why aren't they getting back to me? I'm a great applicant. I've rescued dogs before. I've had Pomeranians my entire life. So I actually had a previous rescue I worked with reach out to them, let them know that I was going to be a great adopter, and then started working with the rescue. And this was at the height of COVID. I did, in fact, get COVID, which delayed me getting him by 2 weeks. And during that 2 weeks, a lot of things happened. And let's just say we're lucky to have him, because the rescue threatened to euthanize him while they waited for me to get over COVID. It was a 7.5-hour drive. I couldn't do it with COVID. It was not safe for me to expose anyone else to it. So fast forward, drove all the way to New Orleans from Jacksonville, Florida, picked up this dog, and then realized that he was on 75 milligrams of trazodone in the morning and 75 milligrams of trazodone at night. If anyone's listening, your ears should have just perked up, because that is a lot of trazodone for a 13-pound Pomeranian. So over the past couple of years, so it'll be 3 years this year, we have worked extensively with him, getting him off of all medication. He's worked with, I think, 5 or 6 trainers now, and you would not believe the refined gentleman he is. He loves to cuddle. He loves people, but he is protective of his people. So he is a funny dog. If you ever see photos of him, he's always happy. We joke, smooth brain, nothing going on up there. He just loves life. He loves to be around people. He loves to go. He loves anything that you're doing. He's the perfect companion. So we noticed, though, shortly after getting him, he wasn't able to go on walks very much. And so we kept trying to increase his distance, thinking, well, he just needs exercise. But we recognized a complete exercise intolerance that actually kept getting worse. Turns out he has a paralyzed larynx. And there's so many different ways to say that, but nevertheless, his larynx failed. And so in the next few years, we will have to do a surgery where they open one side of his throat and do a tie back of one side of his larynx. And eventually he'll need a permanent trach. And so that's what we signed up for. And so I think that's something important to think about with rescues, especially if you're rescuing a Pomeranian, a designer breed, let's just say purebred. Especially if you don't know how they were bred. And even if you do, that backyard breeder, even if you don't think they're a backyard breeder, could have falsified those documents. Again, so many topics here that we can get into and probably will get into this season. We won't today. In the sake of time and just making sure I get everything covered, I'm not going to go into everything. So Napoleon's diet is, of course, different, because why wouldn't all 4 dogs have a different diet? Why would it be easy? He's actually on a grain-free kibble, and he's got a couple of supplements as well, some of the standard ones that we have in our home. And I think we're going to toy with his food a little bit. We've been kind of playing around with some different kibble options, and he's our flexible guy. He's got an iron stomach. I'm happy to try a few different things to see what is best for him with respect to longevity and health. All right, so that leads to our 4th dog, Odin. So Odin will be 2 in July. We haven't even had him a full year yet. And what little bit we do know, he was abandoned and dumped in a parking lot. And it took the people who saw him over a month to capture him. He is terrified of humans, terrified. And I understand. As a puppy, he was thrown out on his own, unable to, really do anything, kind of scrounge around for food, which is interesting now because you will see him in the backyard kind of like eating rocks or eating bugs, kind of going back to that. And so I would have to say he's our most difficult. So I said there was a theme of taking on the difficult dogs. This is it. So he's been our most difficult. We have been fortunate enough to do what's called a board and train, where your dog goes and basically lives with their trainer, gets trained by them. And that did make a huge difference. So once he came back from board and train, we had a few vets kind of mention it. And then our trainer mentioned like, hey, his knees are a little wonky. And I'm like, well, I mean, he's young. I'm sure it's fine, right? So saw a few vets and then saw a vet that specializes in rehabilitation. And so she was able to kind of help us make a decision to see an orthopedic surgeon. And Odin will be having a surgery on his left knee in June of 2024. So just a few weeks from now. And then he's in prehab, and he will then go into rehab after surgery. So we're excited to see how this surgery works for him. We know that knee is causing some pain. So that patella, it just comes in and out so freely. It's as if nothing is holding that kneecap in. And so that's the surgery he's going to have. And this season, we're going to talk about that a little bit. And so kind of sharing some of that information. And that is common as well in small dogs. Not always at this age, but genetically, they could be predisposed to having issues with their knees and their hips. And so Odin actually does a raw diet. And a few of you might have just hit stop, cancel, don't listen. I invite you guys to really open up your minds. And even if you don't agree, the idea here is just listening to different perspectives and just understanding there's more viewpoints out there. I'm not going to lecture anyone on how you feel or what you believe in, but I'm just simply inviting you to hear different perspectives on different things. You know, I think with COVID, we saw a lot of changes with respect to humans and our health, how we prioritize it, and maybe some changes with respect to lifestyle and diet. I think that was an eye-opener for us. And I think kind of what we're seeing contemporaneously with dogs is understanding that there's a paradigm shift happening as well with what we thought we knew as dog health, dog nutrition, dog longevity. And so, you know, I invite you guys over the season to just kind of think outside of the box. And if you don't agree, that's totally fine. We're allowed to have different perspectives. But I want to provide you guys with every perspective out there. And so with that, just because I have a guest on doesn't mean I 100% agree with their viewpoint, or vice versa. Maybe I 100% agree with it, but I try to stay pretty neutral in here just to get you guys that information, because maybe what works for you, maybe won't work for the next person, or maybe it'll help a friend of yours. Hey, my dog's going through XYZ. And so again, this is just an informational platform, a way for me to share as much information as possible. So like I said, thank you guys for supporting us and getting us all the way to season 6. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, please subscribe and follow the podcast. Also, if you will follow us on social media, we are on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. I think that covers all of them. We're also on YouTube. And then we have our website, canineculturepodcast.com. We link different articles, different resources. We, of course, link the podcast there. And then if you would like to send us an email, something you want to hear more about, a topic we haven't covered, someone you want to be a guest, or if you want to be a guest, canineculturepodcast@gmail.com. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. Excited to bring you guys season 6, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com, or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends.